Welcome to the Night Watch Show, Business Edition. Today the topic is franchising. We're going to talk all about franchising, whether to franchise, whether to start your own business instead without a franchise, or even whether to launch your own franchise brand once you've established yourself, as well as a track record, of course, of success growing your own business. And the other question we'll discuss today is now the time, post-pandemic, I don't mean today, once we get the coronavirus under control, hopefully in the very near future, is now the time to start a business. So let's talk a little bit about that today in our business edition of the Night Watch. Well, in my opinion, it is currently a great time to start a business, a fantastic time. In fact, I can't think of a better time to start a business. There are a number of reasons that I'm making that statement. One of the reasons is that unfortunately, many businesses may not make it through the pandemic. Many businesses that are just barely making ends meet, barely making salary, barely making rent, even though there may be rent relief and amortized rent payback programs and options like that. And even in some countries, there's some subsidies to help employees and help employers. Regardless of all that, a lot of businesses just run on such a tight schedule as it is. A lot of the businesses that were kind of on shakier ground going into this may have a very, very low chance of surviving it, whereas businesses that were in a very strong position going into it probably have a better chance of survival. So some of the weaker links, I suppose you can say, no disrespect to those at all, but the businesses that are serving their communities in great ways that barely turn a profit, unless they have deep pockets or access to savings or special types of subsidies or stimulus benefits, it might make it hard. So I do expect a lot of businesses to close, which in a sense makes room for more new businesses to open and creates kind of a skewed level of demand versus availability. Another factor is post-disaster, which this truly is a very severe disaster on a global scale. Historically, there's always been really a surge in pent-up demand coming out of hurricanes and coming out of wars even, and coming out of what we're in now, which I suppose you could really equate to a war of sorts against an invisible enemy, the COVID-19 virus. Has always historically been a surge of pent-up demand. Everybody is just ready to get out of their homes, to get back to their lives as normal, back to restaurants, back to shopping, back to work, back to everything, back to the gym, back to jogging and bicycling and whatever it is you do every day, and spending money and doing all the things that identify the life that we're used to living. So there's a surge in pent-up demand, which translates to a lot of spending, which creates a great opportunity for new businesses. A lot of people will start businesses. A lot of other people won't start businesses, but they certainly will be customers of those businesses. The other criteria to consider is when you're opening a business, one of the biggest challenges often has to do with finding a location. Most businesses are what I would call brick and mortar in terms of there's actually a physical location needed for, at least for staff, whether or not it's retail. You do need a space unless you're running it out of your home, which is possible. But for the majority of businesses where you actually do need a physical location, I would say it's an ideal renter's market in terms of there are businesses that probably won't make it through this. There will be spaces available. Those that are in control of those spaces, property management companies, landlords, etc. It's an ideal time to find spaces and to secure preferential terms versus when everything is perfect and ideal and full recovery has occurred. It's always better, just as in the stock market, buy low, sell high. It's a great time to get in on the ground floor on rental deals that you probably normally would not find. So securing a space, I would say, would be ideal at this time with preferential terms on a lease, for example. Let's just shift gears a little bit and talk about whether to franchise or just to start your own business instead of franchising. Obviously, franchising has some additional fees associated with it. However, there are also some benefits we'll discuss as well. One thing I would say that if you are truly an expert in your own field, for example, you're an expert deli operator, an expert restaurateur, an expert retail business operator, where you've kind of run your own store, whether it's fashion or whether it's food or whatever it might be, convenience stores, gas stations. If you're an expert at doing that, truly, you may not need to franchise. Do it yourself, come up with your own brand, and that is certainly an option. In fact, if you're really good at it, you can run such a successful business and make your own brand And if you're interested, eventually start your own franchise and become the franchisor and sub-franchise to others in your community, in your country, even around the world. And that's certainly an opportunity. So it really would depend on your personal situation. Now, the average person that does start a new business tends to start a business that they are not experts in. And that's where franchising really comes in handy. One of the benefits of starting a franchise, for example, is you're basically securing a proven success model. You're going after a model that you're able to objectively evaluate the success of the model and find a model that has been successful, that you can understand, that you're interested in, and that has a track record, and perhaps even a brand that has brand recognition, which is a big benefit as well. And also, there's a system, there's a process, there are manuals, there's support, which ultimately helps you to avoid a lot of costly and time-consuming mistakes that otherwise you would end up making, whether it comes to hiring, whether it comes to the right sign, the right way to advertise, all these decisions that if you're an expert, you know how to do it already, you don't need that support. But most people that say, I'd like to start an ice cream business, or I want to start a deli, or I want to start a pizzeria, or whatever it might be, I want to start a gym. Most people that are doing that haven't done it before. They're first timers going into it. Maybe they've succeeded in the corporate world and they have certainly great business skills, but have they actually had a business that's dependent on making a perfect sandwich every time? If not, often it's ideal to look at the franchise model. There are many reasons to start a franchise, and also there's some reasons for doing it on your own instead of a franchise, depending on your situation, which obviously varies from person to person. In my opinion, it's all about support. It's about branding. It's about a proven track record of success, processes, equipment, approaches that are proven to work. There's countless time and money potentially spent in learning the hard way. When you start a business and you make a few mistakes in the beginning, they can cost you a fortune on the end. For example, selecting the wrong location can be a real business killer. Hiring the wrong manager or general manager or just even employees can really cost you so much time and money and can even completely undermine your business and lead to failure. So one of the benefits of a franchise is when the franchise offers support with finding a location, for example, that's huge. Helping to hire the right manager and the right staff, that's huge. That helps you avoid costly mistakes that may take a very long time to recover from if you go independent. Another aspect is advertising. You can spend a lot of time and money advertising on your own, and you may get lucky, or you may be very good at advertising and you may succeed that way, or you may spend a fortune on advertising, and not only have you spent all that money that's gone, but if it didn't yield the necessary results as far as growing your customer base, you've spent the money and you also didn't earn the money, and it's kind of double damage. Whereas with a franchise, there should be, and often is, support with the marketing and branding element, helping to place appropriate ads that are proven to be effective and lead to success, which will help you cut through a lot of the learning curve. So not only are you spending effectively, but you're also reaping the rewards of securing the customer associated, or the revenue source associated with that marketing campaign. If you wanted to open your own gym, let's say you decide to open your own gym, which a lot of people all over the world do. They decide they're into fitness, it'd be fun to have a gym, great business, great way to make some additional revenue, so why not start a gym? It makes sense. A lot of people are into fitness. They might be a bodybuilder, mixed martial artist, and there's a lot of reason that you may decide to open your own gym. Happens all the time. It makes sense. And fitness is a booming industry, so why not jump in? So the truth is anyone can open a gym, but making it profitable, and profitable as fast as possible, that is where it becomes a far more scientific approach. The question is, if you open your own gym, you'll spend so much time coming up with a name, number one, which won't be one that's yet branded, securing the needed licenses, finding out where to get all the needed equipment. Will the equipment be the right equipment? Will the quality level be at the appropriate level or not? Will you end up with equipment that is substandard, that breaks easy, that's not supported and maintained properly? And will you end up just making a lot of mistakes to the point where you may have to buy all the equipment again, or your customers just won't like your equipment and won't end up being members of your gym for long because of it? So that would be one of the challenges in opening your own location. Whereas with a franchise brand, help with sourcing the equipment, the appropriate proper equipment with a proven track record of success and support, etc., and most likely at preferential pricing as well. Typically the franchisor will negotiate special pricing for the equipment. That goes a long way. The other aspect is knowing how to run a business, knowing how to work out is a lot different than knowing how to run a very successful, for example, world-class gym, if that's what you're going after. So paying a franchise fee, which most franchises require, probably all, there is some additional expense involved in having a franchise, because typically you're paying both a franchise fee up front, and in addition, you're paying a percentage of your gross sales as a royalty to the franchisor. Now, some people look at the royalty as a bad thing. It's an extra expense. Maybe it's 5 or 10% of your gross sales. When you think about it, it hurts to think of paying that additional money out of pocket. But what are you paying for? You're paying for support. So let's say that you have a 10-year franchise agreement. You're paying a franchise fee, whatever that may be, and you're paying a monthly royalty. The monthly royalty, what that essentially does, the way I would look at it, my perspective, you're paying for support. Let's say it's a gym or a yoga studio type model. You're paying for support by athletic experts, by business experts in the fitness world, in the yoga world, who are going to be there to answer your questions, however complex, however frequent they may be, and to help you with that level of expertise on an ongoing basis, which is huge. I would want to pay a royalty. If I was offered a franchise with no royalty, I would have no interest. I want the franchisor to benefit from my success. I want them to do better the better I do, so that they're very highly motivated for me to be very successful, and for them to want to support me and be paid for that support based on my success as well. So in my opinion, a royalty is a good thing. The higher your sales, the better the franchisor does, and the more excited they are to support you. So a royalty, in my opinion, is a good thing. So with the franchise model, you're paying a franchise fee, you're paying a royalty. In many cases, that franchise fee covers 10 plus years of being able to use that brand. Usually there are renewal provisions as well. Some franchise models go out to 10 plus 10 agreement, which means an initial 10 years plus a guaranteed renewal for another 10 years for a small fee. It may be $3,000 to $5,000, for example, to renew it. So all in all, you're paying a franchise fee that's probably giving you 10 to 20 years of the use of the brand, access to experts for whatever may come your way over the course of time. There'll be those you can talk to for support and help and guidance. And that's the type of franchise you want to pursue, one that will support you, one that charges a royalty that makes it worth their while to help you. Another example is hiring trainers. Even if you're great at fitness and working out, do you know how to hire a trainer that's great with people and managing that trainer? So all of that comes into play with the franchise model. Another example, recently I was thinking it would be great to open a pharmacy franchise. It just seems like an ideal business, kind of recession-proof, always does well for the most part. But then I started thinking about it. Number one, I know nothing about hiring a pharmacist. I'm not a pharmacist. I would like to own a pharmacy business, but do I know how to hire my own pharmacist? Absolutely not. Do I know what questions to ask? Definitely not. I could make sure they have a degree. That's about all I'd be able to do. Do I know where to source all of the different pharmaceuticals that would be necessary? Definitely not. Do I know how to obtain the needed approvals, government-wise, permits, etc., to operate a pharmacy? No, I don't. Will people trust my pharmacy and know that I'm selling legitimate medication and prescriptions and that it's not counterfeit and phony? Who knows? So I would certainly err towards a franchise model, and I'd be very happy to pay a franchise fee and a royalty to have someone that I could answer all these complex questions that will come up over time, not just in launch, but for the next 10 or 20 years. So looking at those different models, and there's many types of franchises, obviously in food and beverage, also in fitness, also business services, consulting services. There's really a broad range, whatever your interest is. I really suggest that unless you are an expert in your field, to the point that you believe that there's no need to pay a franchisor to teach you their level of expertise, since you're already an expert. And in some cases, that is the case. You may have ran a restaurant as a general manager for 10 years and you want to open your own restaurant and you don't need a brand. You're very confident with the quality of the product. You know how to produce, the quality of service, you know how to run the business. And perhaps there's no reason for a franchise and you do it yourself. And if you're successful, you may want to open more locations yourself. You may even want to franchise. And if you want to franchise, there's certainly ways to do that. There are consulting firms that will help you for a fairly reasonable price put together a franchising package. Of course, franchisees, those that buy a franchise from you, will want to look at the data to confirm that it's a successful model. They'll want to check it out, visit the location most likely, or at least go through video content and other content to make sure it's a model that they can embrace, that they see the results are there, proven track record, the brand has emerged, and then you become franchisable. And there are firms that will help you to do that. And for those of you that may have a successful business with 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 locations, if you're interested in franchising, and you need some help on how to do that, send us a message. We'll reply and try to give you some guidance on what type of firm to look for. There are some that will overcharge. There are some that will undercharge and yet underperform. So we're happy to provide some general advice on how to find the right consultant to help you franchise your current brand. What I don't recommend is you just going out and immediately starting a business and trying to franchise it. You do need to develop that track record first to have any hope of others wanting to join the franchise model as well. And just one more recap. So regarding franchising, when you start a franchise, there's a few components to it. One component is there's typically a franchise fee. For example, it may be 40 to 60,000 US dollars for possibly a 10-year agreement, or even a 10-year agreement that has an option to renew for another 10 years, making it a 20-year agreement. So let's just hypothetically say the franchise fee is 50,000 US dollars for an initial 10 years. After 10 years, you pay a $5,000 renewal fee for another 10-year agreement, which makes it a total of 20 years. So you're basically paying $50,000. You're paying a $5,000 renewal in 10 years. Your total fee paid over the 20-year term in terms of the franchise fee plus renewals, $55,000. If you average that out over 20 years, that's about $200 a month that you paid out for franchise fee to have access to 20 years of support, which is quite valuable. The royalty, for example, let's just say that it's 7% of gross sales. 7% of gross sales is going to the franchisor. That's obviously helping the franchisor to subsidize their efforts of their team of staff and employees and executives that are supporting you throughout the way. And they're also providing various types of infrastructure and back-end support and other things that they do to help you, which is quite costly on their end. So all in all, the cost, a few $100s a month, if you apply that in a franchise fee model towards, if you break that down over the term of the franchise, and then when you look at the royalty, you're basically ensuring the franchisor has vested interest in your success, which you certainly want. And that's typically how it works out. So all in all, I'm highly in favor of franchises. Personally, I would be more inclined if I wanted to open a deli, I would probably open a deli franchise instead of my own deli. I know how to eat a good sandwich. I know what a good sandwich tastes like. I might even be able to make a good sandwich, but could I actually run a successful, high volume, very busy, very successful deli type of business, hit the ground running without losing money for 5 or 6 months and hiring all the wrong people first? Probably not. I'd rather pay $30,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 franchise fee, pay some royalties, and have a model that's kind of turnkey, open fast, get positive revenue fast, and succeed, and then open another franchise later perhaps. So that's today's talk on franchising. Thank you very much for visiting the Night Watch Show. We wish you great success in all that you do. We hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to our channel for ongoing updates.